So what's up, y'all? As always, man, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Marcel. I'm known as the Wealth Mentor, and I'm the host of Wealthy Sibling. Well, we are here to talk about everything that makes us great. What it's like being the wealthy sibling, the good, the bad, the journey, going on as businessman, and our goals when we are the wealthy sibling or wealthy relative. What it's like wanting to change our family's money story and what that journey is like. And I have my good brother Alex here. Alex Blake,
Blanc.
right?
Yep.
And right. Oh, that's that. Yeah. But man, bro, I'm so happy you here with me. In short, just so y'all know, he has done so much. He's an award-winning content creator. For me, I would say a producer, influencer, podcaster for sure. As far as the host, as far as the host, he is a Morgan State alum, right? So graduated from Morgan State.
Mm-hmm.
And man, bro, you are a for me, you are a intellectual storyteller when you do podcasting and journalism. So I definitely want to dive into your story
Appreciate
as
you.
to how you became this excellent, right? So what what was your beginnings like? Like, were you always this type of storyteller, this type of journalism, or did this pathway fall into your lap?
Yeah, no, my story is kind of interesting because like I really didn't know I would have to go back to high school, like what I was going to do. But the only thing that I was good at in high school was production. Like we had a TV production class, and my friend told me about it like our sophomore year of high school. And once I started, like, picked up a camera for the first time and just saw the ins and outs of everything, I fell in love with it. And then once you went into your junior year, you're responsible for doing like the morning announcements. You're responsible for producing the content. And that's when I
Y'all had a
first
TV
became,
station?
we had a TV station at my school. And that was like the
Okay.
only class that I was good at. Like that was the only class that I was good at. I barely graduated high school with a 2.0. College was just like whatever. Like I was not that excellent student. I wasn't like one of those overachievers
Academically
and things of that
inclined.
nature.
Yeah.
Never. But the one thing that I knew was like when it came to being a camera, like and being a creative in that aspect, it just made sense to me. And there was a point in time in high school where I did this project where it was like a mini documentary. It was 5 minutes, but I had to capture the basketball team who had lost the year before, and they had like one of the best seasons that we had, which was my senior year. But I went to every game, I went to every practice, and I just started
Like
to
a Coach Carter
document
comeback.
in a sense, right? So it's like I'm documenting everything. And that was kind of like my introduction to it, like seeing the process from strategizing it to execution, like through and through. After that, I was like, okay, this is a course that I can take. And then I obviously, um, the path is it's a long story, so I don't want to talk too long and be too long with it, but it's just like from there, like I graduated, I went to PWI first, which was Pot State in West Virginia. They had a journalism course. It was cool, but I wasn't really feeling it like that. So now I came back home, which is Maryland, and then I did a year at this community college called Montgomery College. That's when everything shifted. That's when my whole perspective on academia, that's when my perspective on just life in general shifted. I came home, was going down a questionable path. You know, I was dealing in some things that I wasn't supposed to deal with at that time. But
Okay.
then I
The
met
black
my
experience.
essentially. Um, because my mom had lost her job. So in my mind at that time, it's like, okay, now
I gotta get it.
my dad was in the household, so it's not like I really, but in my mind, I'm only 19, so it's like, okay, you got to go get it. And the only way I could go get it was what I saw around me at some time points in time. And it wasn't like I grew up in the hood or nothing. It was the suburbs, but there was still like the black experience because it's like, okay, these are the things that I have seen success in around me.
Man,
So
that's a I want to add knowledge to your story, but and insight really. That's a that's a deep cultural thing that I think we have to reflect upon, and I think us as podcasters and storytellers and orators have to speak truth to. We got to start changing our trajectory because if it can affect us, no matter our economical standing, yeah.
and that's the thing, right? So like I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked into a TGI Fridays. I got the job the same day. And then after that, I was like, how can I expand on this? And I was good at it, you know what I'm saying? But there was a turning point. I was still going to school. That was just the one thing that I told myself was like, I'll do this, but like the ultimate goal is to get out of this and find another way to do whatever, live the life that I want to. And shout out to the homies in the community that you keep, because a lot of the people that I grew up with, they created this creative team called Afro Lounge. And Afro Lounge essentially was doing recap videos. It was a production company. My homie was 21 when he created it. I was like 19. So we're going around with throwing parties and everything in that capacity. And they need a videographer. So capturing content, shooting videos, doing all of this, all the things. And I just remember we wanted to shoot like a short. And one thing that I'll tell the listening audience is there's a lot of people in your community that you don't realize how resourceful they are, how impactful they are, and how them being around you, you are 1 degree away from whatever success you're looking for, 1 or 2 degrees. Because my mentor was somebody that had been around me my entire life. He was an uncle. Well, he was a grandfather to my niece, you know, but like I literally grew up with this man. And unbeknownst to me, because I just knew him as Uncle George, he would be the founder of Emerge Magazine, which is one of the largest Black publications in the early 2000s. And it's crazy because I remember this conversation like this was changed my life to this day. I went out to go eat with him, and he was just like, "What's your GPA?" And I was like, we all said the same GPA. We all had a 2.3 GPA. And the look of disgust in his face was just like what's going on? And I was talking to him because we were so arrogant. You know, when you're young, you're just arrogant. You know, you don't think anybody can tell you nothing. But in that moment, I just felt like conviction with his look. And I was like, I remember him saying it. I was like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm gonna get a 4.0 this semester, this, that, and third. He was like, I don't care if you get a 4.0. He was just like, I just want you to try your best. And he was like, a 2.3 is not your best. And then he knew what I was into. And God rest his soul, you know, he passed away before my senior year, but we had a conversation and he was like, how much do you think you make in a week? I told him, and he was just like, okay. And I'll never forget.
That's cool.
He was like, that's cute. Put out a check. And it was like, check for $20,000. And I was like, what? Like, and he said, it took me 30 minutes to do that. And my life will never be on the line doing it that way. And I said, what'd you do? He said, I just talk. I said, talk. I said, what do you mean? He was like, I was a commencement speaker. He said, I was a commencement speaker at Kent State University. They paid me $20,000 to speak for 30 minutes. And he looked at me and he said, bro, if you work hard, I can't promise you this right now, but if you work hard, you pay attention to detail, you do what you are supposed to do. He said, one day they're going to pay you more than $20,000 to speak for 30 minutes. And that was it. That was all she wrote. That was the start of me taking life seriously. I think that same semester, I went from a 2.3 to a 3.3. I graduated. I transferred to Morgan State that fall. And I could get into more of the story about radio and everything down the line, but that was the pipeline of like, okay, media is the way. We still continue to work with the company. We're doing a bunch of different projects, but that conversation right there made me recognize that, one, the person that can change your life is probably already around you. You just don't see them. But then two, are you willing to be different? Are you willing to learn? And then three, and this is the most important part, is are you trying your best? Because you can, the success is already in you, but are you really trying your best? Because people be talking about, I'll try it, but are you trying your best though? And yeah.
Are you trying for real?
I know I just said a lot there, but yeah.
No, man. You know what? It's so funny. There was a few reasons why when we first started having conversations, I knew that there was a reason like we gelled and meshed. One of the first things for me was the way you spoke about your work ethic without adding sparkle to it, adding gloss. Like you be like, bro, I work hard, I did X, Y, and Z, but there was no ego about it. You was still in the motion of an a hard worker. Like you have highlights, but you like, bro, I'm still out here getting it. We doing this every day, XYZ, no matter what it is. But like speaking to you now, and to find out that like your uncle was your best friend, your mentor, the person who crafted and seen the success, and you just pulled it out and went for it. That means a lot to me because my uncle was my best friend, and my uncle passed. Man, be like 3 years to this day. But yeah, thank you, bro. So like when I tell you I feel you, like I seen you when you started, like but yeah, I hear you because my uncle also was the guy that like that I could go and talk to about all the things, good, bad, different, no judgment, and he would talk about aspirations and dreams and what we would be or what I could be, as if he is my father, and I love that man to death. And and he inspired me to be. I put my because I'm an actual uncle in real life. So you feel me? So that standard of like how our uncle in sense, I'm like, yeah, it's him and then probably Uncle Phil and from Fresh to Bel-Air. You feel me? But like he is the standard of man that I love to. I respect, especially black men who instill those things. And
and I think that like to echo that part is just like because my father was in my life and he's a great man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like amazing. He's a Haitian immigrant that came here, him and my mother, and they created the best situation that they possibly could for me. And I was blessed. I didn't realize it until I was older how blessed I was. But like Dave Chappelle said it best because we grew up in the same town as Silver Spring. He was like, my parents worked hard so that we could grow up or around rich white folk. And that was it, like now we're in a much better place. We've worked hard and everything in a capacity, but there was times where he had to work 3-4 jobs my mom would be working to provide for us. And, you don't understand that like in your youth, I thought I was great, but until I went to another person's house and I was like, what's going on? But my uncle in particular was the first time that I had seen success on that level. In a different way. I didn't understand that journalism was a pathway for you to be successful. A lot of times it was like, I wanted to play basketball. I never even made the team, but those were the innate destinations that we could aspire to be. And that is what is presented. And that's why I think media is so important. What we do is so important because a lot of the reasons and circumstances that we find people within our community subscribing to the same thing is because the narrative that is presented to them is one directional. You know what I'm saying? Where we live in an omnidirectional life where there's many ways to get to the same destination. There's so many different pathways and we have so many stories, but the platforms don't highlight those differences. They just try to focus on that linear path. And I don't believe that there's just one linear path to success. But my uncle kind of showed me that because he was of the generation where you had to fight for the right to even be in those fields. So you have to write your own success.
Oh man, that's for real. For real, man. I think that the beauty of being today's journalist, I want to talk about like how you went from high school into college, but I want to ask you a two-part question. You as a black man, but also specifically as a Haitian man, when it comes to telling these plights, right? Like the story of your parents and how hard they had to work to get even what you would call middle class, right? A form of America's success and stability. What is the role of today's journalists, especially Black men and women's journalism, to tell those stories? And did you have any instances where you had to be that journalist from high school into college?
I mean, my whole career is starting off, yes, in short. Your first part is there's a huge responsibility. Journalism used to serve as the fourth estate. And it's unfortunate because what we have seen is that capitalism has bled into something that was once sacred or presumed to be sacred. And that's how they pitched it to us. It's like we're never supposed to be the news as journalists. We were never supposed to be the subject matter, but everything has become entertainment in a sense, and everything has been influenced by the bottom line. So a lot of times the way and the angle, and they understand this down to a psychology of like how you can condition somebody's mind to look at life a certain type of way. I'll give you an example. I used to work at a news station in Baltimore City called WBAL. And there's literally one point, and this is why you need to have representation in those newsrooms, and you need to have representations in the boardrooms, and you need to have representation in all of those places, because when you talk about how do you tell a story, we started to realize a disparity in how stories were written and how they were told. So when there was a story about a white person committing a crime, no mugshot. But when there was a story of a person of color that was being detained or something in that capacity, there was a mugshot. So now if you're watching the news and you're hearing a story of a crime, when you go out into the world, when you see somebody that looks like what you have just seen, you automatically have a stigma that is attached to them, because this is the painting that was the picture that was painted, of this community and everything in that capacity. So from a journalistic standpoint, we have absolutely hold a heavy responsibility to tell the story and tell it right. And that's why I'm never trying to tear down another a Black entity or something in that capacity. But when you have, I'm going to say it, like platforms like the Zeus Network and things of that nature, and we see the shade rooms and all of that stuff, and what is spotlit is a lot of negativity, it kind of skews the perception of what can truly come out of our community. And I'm not trying
how the world looks at our Black women.
I'm not absolutely, and but it's scarier. And this is what somebody said to me in undergrad that really made me think about it. It's not so much about how the world looks at Black women. It's also how Black women look at themselves now. Yeah. So we think about it from an external perspective, but now you have people that are within the community that feel like I have to subjugate myself to certain lifestyles or certain circumstances and things of that nature. And I'm more afraid of that than the external. They're gonna think about what they think about us regardless, right? But now when you start to talk about the conditioning within yourself, it's like now we can create the enemy within. And that's the scary part. So when we talk about journalism from that perspective, we hold a heavy burden to tell the truth and for it to be non-biased. List the facts and let everybody else make their own opinion. But we have been in a place right now where we are trying to, it's very, very, it's like we're trying to drive somebody towards a direction of what they should believe. There's a lot of propaganda media. There's a lot of things of that nature. And I'm not just saying for Black media. This is across the board. We see a president that has weaponized the media, weaponized language and things of that nature. So
came from entertainment. So
understands it to a science. And this is not something, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist or something in that capacity, but this is just, there are scientific studies that can explain to you how what you see and what you consume can create biases within your mind. And that is something that we have to take into consideration 100% as people of color that are in these newsrooms and have the responsibility of having these platforms.
Yeah, and I think that for everybody that's listening, when we have these type of conversations, there's a reason why most of the people in our community that we speak to, a lot of big words are used to gloss over. So we take the time to say, all right, you don't know how to talk to my people, or you're going to use words that they may not be able to digest. I grew up speaking to all of them, so I know how to talk to all of them. Let me go learn your language. Let me go learn your IQ. Okay, that's what you said. All right, let me go tell my people about. So have you ever heard of the term propaganda? Have you ever heard of the term why women started to smoke around the 50s? Have you ever heard the term why they talk about, you should eat breakfast 3 times a day? There's a lot of scientific and led through media that we as a community need to know. And when we start to shape these type of things, that we as the people who become journalists, become storytellers, become orators, need to reshape the direction But let me tell you what it is that he just said. That way, man, just said on that TV. Let me tell you.
Yeah. And it goes, I'm
yeah.
sorry. And it goes back to the Freedom
No,
Journal, bro. Like if you go back to the Freedom Journal, I want to say it was 1857. Don't quote me. I might have got the date wrong, but that's literally what they wrote. They say we wish to please our own cause because for too long others have spoken for us. Right there in the Freedom Journal. That's the first Black publication. Like we want to plead our own cause. We want to tell our story because for so long everybody has been speaking for us.
So, I hear and see that you had a lot of these inspirations, and you have a lot of these historical examples and family examples. But I know you spoke about this as far as your journey into journalism, from going to college to working with high level people. Um, did you see these things acted out in the high level people you worked with? Because I believe that you worked with Roland Martin, correct?
Well, that's where I got that's where I got that whole Freedom Journal because he's black. Like, and it was trial by fire. And I'm gonna tell you a little funny story, how everything comes full circle. When my mentor died, he died right before my senior year of college, like my last year. And I remember he got buried in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And it was crazy because Roland was every publication had written about him passing away. That's when I really realized, he was a big deal. Like I'm talking about BET, CNN, all of these people covered when he passed. But I remember there was only a few people that covered, like streamed the funeral. Roland was one of them. Roland was one of them. And it was crazy because there was a story that my uncle used to tell me about where he did an interview with Mammy Till. And he did a lot of them. Emmett Till's mother.
Wait, you talking Emmett Till? Oh, you know Miss Carter. I'm about to say, okay.
Right, that's why I said he did an interview with his mother back in the day. And
wow.
Just hearing his perspective and his testimony of like her experience and why she decided to show the world what they did to her son. It was just captivating, right? So I didn't know all of this stuff, but here you have somebody like Roland who comes in and he sees it, and he was tough to work for. I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all because he held us to a level of excellence because he understood the gravity of what we fought for,
who we were.
Yeah, like how did we get here? You don't understand that when there's a level of excellence that you have to display, not just for yourself, but for the 10 people that they're waiting to say no to when you fail. The 20 or 30 people that's like, we gave that one black guy, we gave that one, and we think we're progressive. We got a lot further to go. So the pathway was interesting because I think the question was like working with a Roland, like there was a long pathway to get to that job, right? I started in radio. I did out of college. There was an there was a public radio station that was attached to the university, but it was an NPR affiliate. And I only did one internship in college, and that only internship ended up becoming the full-time job that I had. I tell this story because like a lot of people don't understand in media, when you start off, there is no money. It's like zero money. And I remember
not like today.
None starting off. Like it's just like, yeah, bad. But I remember my first salary. I can't believe I'm telling this story again. But I signed my first salary for $10,000. It wasn't even legal. $10,000 after going 4 years. I was the first person in my family. I'm the youngest, the first and only person to graduate for college. They told me, go to school. My mentor, God rest his soul, told me, go to school, you'll get a good job. This is that X, Y, and Z in a third. What they didn't tell me is that you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, though, after you graduate. I was getting paid $392 every year. I mean, every week. 2 weeks, I'm sorry. Every 2 weeks for my first job. And I had to drive an hour back and forth. And I was 22 years old. But there was one thing that I had. I was hungry. Because I remember applying to over 100 jobs and nobody gave me a shot because I didn't have the experience. And I remember in that particular moment, I remember praying to God, and I had a dream that I was walking from like a secondary room into a main studio, and it ended up being that same studio. Excuse me. And man, from that, I was 23 years old, but I bust my ass. And I ended up having, at the age of 23, a 5 to 7 daily program that I was producing. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Check the books. We were one of the number one drive time TV shows. 2 young guys. Well, my host was like in his late 30s, early 40s. And they gave us a shot. Because shout out to my news director at the time. Her name was Mallory Pinker-Pierre. She was just like, y'all are hungry. I got that dog. If y'all wanted to make this happen, go do it. We at every town hall meeting. We are covering the police department. This is Baltimore City I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? At that time, we had just been 2 years removed from Freddie Gray, you know what I'm saying, and the uprising that took place. So you had a lot of deconstruction that was taking place. These are the things that I'm talking about when I said it's important to talk about these conversations within our community, because they were listening. You have commissioners, you had a police that was murdered, you know, or allegedly, or committed suicide, allegedly, you know what I'm saying? And Sean Suter. Sorry, I want to make sure I cleared that up and said that correctly. You had some turbulent things that took place with the Healthy Holly situation and the mayor of Baltimore at the time. We had to cover all of that. I'm 23. I'm a kid. I just graduated. I don't know what I'm doing, really.
Yeah.
And it's like you are forced to grow up, but then you start to understand the responsibility, because I can't play around with this. I have to make sure I get the facts. Because you don't know what somebody's going to hear. Oh, the police are moving this way. This is a lot we're talking about at this point. One of the greatest stories that we ever had to cover was talking about how the school system had some HD issues. And there was so many back and forth, all these things that were going back and forth. Because there was a photo of the kids wearing jackets because they didn't have AC units. And we're like, okay, we have to get some space in
the inner city.
So there's a back and forth between the state and the inner city. And they're like, well, we give them the most money. We didn't even know that. That at that time, Baltimore City received the most money from the state. So now the issue became something that was greater. When you looked at all of the other counties, the local government gave a huge percentage too. So there was a balance. And we're looking at it and they're like, well, we give them the most money out of everybody in the state at the time. And I was like, wait, what?
How you broke?
Make sense.
Yeah.
Stuff like that matters. So then from there, I left and I went into television for a little bit, worked at the station that I mentioned before as a producer, WBAL. And after that, podcasting came back around. I was doing a podcast at the same time. We stopped doing that podcast, and I'm abbreviating the conversation because I've been talking a long time now. But we did podcasting for a little time. I left it. I left the media altogether, took a break for a little bit, and then I got a phone call one day. And this is how planting one season matters. And you have to do your best in the seasons that you feel like doesn't matter. Because a job that I was getting paid $392 for, that host was now working on Roland Martin's network. And he says, yo, I might get a show here. They said I could choose my producer. I want you to be my producer. $395 to now opportunity on Roland Martin show. And I was like, oh, let's do it. I was working in property management at the time. I had left media altogether. And he says, come on in for a trial. Just
were you making good money in property management?
Yeah, like 50, 60. You know.
You're doing something.
Bro, I'd never produced one show for my old host. Roland saw me produce, and he was like, yeah, we're not letting you go. So from that day until now, I'm not his producer anymore, but I never produced one show from my old host. It was just a good time. I learned so much from Roland. Again, it was very difficult, but I was blessed.
Okay. I hope everybody took all that in because there was a lot of gems, a lot of historical gems. I've learned a lot, for sure.
I,
And what I want to tailor this into is with all that experience, right? Going from, I won't really call any of that little, but I would just call that the beginnings to what you do now as I call you the co-host of the J Hill's network because it's a network now. Because
still, yeah, co-host of 1% Better, and I produced the J Hill podcast. Yep.
Okay, so when you walked into that, what was that connection, or like how did that happen, and then how did you take your skills into that?
Yeah, relationships are key. So again, sometimes you may think something that's insignificant, you just never know. Jay and I had a podcast. I'm not about our podcast, a radio show. At that very same radio station that I was getting peanuts for.
Okay.
And he was a free agent at one point in time. And I remember going to my station director and I was like, hey, we need to get this guy. Do we have any budget so I can get him on the show as a contributor? She was like, I'll give you one better. I said, I want him to have a show. And she said, but the only way I'm going to let him have a show is if you produce it. And it was Friday nights, once a week from like 7 to midnight. And I was like, Jesus. Mind you, my show ended at 7. I'm sorry, it was 10 to midnight. My show ended at 7, so I would have to stay 3 hours after working and then do the show for 2 hours and then go home. So we did
it, bro.
Had to at that time, and we did the show, and the show got canceled for reasons that we were just being dumb. And I remember at the time, he and his now ex-wife were a week later recorded this podcast, and I see the video, and some people could have washed their hands, could have been like, it didn't work out. And no, steward those relationships. One thing that I've learned is like relationships are not disposable. And I watched this video and I see a clip of him talking with his significant other at the time, and I'm just like, that one. This is the podcast. This is it. This is it. And we started from episode 2. I was their producer, and we went a good 50 to 60 episodes, and we stopped that podcast because it was during COVID. We're recording fearless. Like, we didn't care. It was COVID. Like, we are recording the entire time. We had our viral moments. We had all these situations that had taken place, and we were lifting as we were climbing because none of us knew anything about the podcast space. It was very new. It was very fresh. And, at that time, I was still working at the radio station. The news station in Baltimore. This is before Roland, and I was a TV producer there. And essentially, when I took that break from media, I took a break from the podcast too. So when I went into property management, I left everything, and I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know. Like, I just felt like I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't feel like I was aligned. I didn't know what was going on. But me and him, relationships are not disposable because he says this, and we talked about it on the podcast. Like, even though he didn't want to see me go, he just respected that, like, yo, this is what you need for yourself. But we stayed in contact. And he calls me one day and he's like, yo, I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm like, okay, great. So he moves down to Atlanta. He toes off. I'm talking about a year later, he is everywhere. Like, he is going crazy down there. And he calls me, he's like, yo, you need to come down to Atlanta. I'm like, nah, bro. It's like, nah, I'm not
cool.
To Atlanta. Like, nah, I'm cool, bro. Like, I had just started working in corporate. I was working with Roland at that time, and I'm like, bro, I'm cool. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Then I went into corporate production, and he calls me again. He's like, listen, I can have any producer in the world, but I want you to be my producer. He said, you're just special. You said you do things different. And here's where I think this matters. You're going to get 1 or 2 times for this person to believe in you, bro. And if you don't want to believe in yourself, look, man, you might miss out on your blessings. And I know that sometimes it's like, oh, people see it before you do. But, man, when somebody sees it, believe it. There's something about you that's special. because I don't believe that favor is not fair. So if you have the favor of the Lord over you, man, look, lean in, press in, don't run away from it. And
Preach.
I was running away from it.
Mm.
And I remember it was a moment where I was going to consider it, and my dad had a stroke. So I was like, okay, now it's not the time. And he was just asking me, he was like, what's the moment? He was like, what would you need for me to get you? I'm talking about what would you need for me to get you down here to Atlanta? I said, I can do once a month. I'll come down there, we'll record 4 episodes, and I'll go back home. And that's what I did for 3 months straight. 12 episodes, recorded all of that. Boy, I came down to Atlanta. I said, yeah, I'll live down here for 3 months. It's been 2 years, and I haven't looked back. And that was the best decision.
That Black excellence be calling.
That was the best decision I could have made, because at the end of the day, my dad got better. You know, we started the podcast. It was a very unconventional start. We didn't even have a name when we started this version or this iteration of the podcast. We called it, we'll name this podcast later, because we just had the chemistry. He loves podcasting. Like, this is really what he wanted to do. I never wanted to be on camera. That's why I said, when somebody tells you enough times, it's like, look, bro, the first time he said it to me, I was like, okay, I will never forget that conversation. We were doing the last podcast, which was called the Gemini Scorpio Podcast. And he calls me on a Saturday night. That's what I'm telling you. Somebody believes in you. Listen to me, audience. Believe him.
Listen.
He calls me on a Saturday night. He said, Alex, we had just got another call. He's like, you're going to be on camera tomorrow. You're going to do great. And that was it. And I said, no, I'm not. he said, trust me. You're going to do the great. You're going to be able to articulate everything that he's like, you're special. You have a way of what you said, telling stories or something in that capacity. And I was just like, bro, I don't want to do this. Like, I hate being on camera. Like, I want to be somebody behind the camera. I want to be an owner, because I never resonated with the players or the coaches. In my life, I've always resonated with the owners. It's like, when I look at a team, I want to know, what's Jerry Jones thinking? Not what what Dak Prescott is thinking. You know what I'm saying? That's just how my mind has always worked. Like, so I really cared about the system outside of the podcast and seeing how he put it together, as opposed to me being on the actual podcast itself.
So you were a lot like Magic. If you remember the speech he gave,
in a sense,
the part where he goes and hangs with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of been the blessing that I've always had. Like, even when I was working with Roland, like, I remember Roland taught me a very, very pivotal lesson. He was like, bro, see the board. Like, there was this scene that he played from, I forgot what the movie was called, but it's like, see the board. And it's like, you see this board of chess pieces. And he's like, you have to be able to see all your pieces before they even hit the board. So that was something that I just resonated with. And God has blessed me to be around trailblazers that start their own business, a lot of entrepreneurs and things of that nature. And what I would realize is that they all dare to be different. They all were disruptors. They all were people that they saw a problem and they're like, I could be a solution, or I could be an innovator. I can do something as a service to my community. And they've all been doing it great. So yes, like Magic.
This is going to be my last two. It's a 2-part question, but yeah, like Magic for sure. So with all the knowledge you have, especially going into podcasting with Jay Hill, what do, for content creators, people who may want to get into this space, this media space, because I really, really want to put respect on podcasting as a part of journalism, but what do people get wrong about podcasting from what you've learned and build? And then the 2-part is, with all of that, how do you balance working with Jay Hill when you guys can have different bases of opinions about different creative styles, right? How do you balance that working with someone who may bring different energy and doing business with them?
The first part is like, sorry, the first part again.
The first part is, I'll slow it down for you. So the first part is, for people who want to do content creation in media entertainment, What do people get wrong in podcasting that
There
you've
it is.
learned
Okay.
can scale higher?
Got it. Okay. What do people get wrong? People think that you just set up a camera and that's it. Like you set up a camera, record. No,
Okay.
there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of care. There's a lot of patience. I think that if you really love this, then what you'll start to recognize is that it's not rewarding. It's a very much a thankless job in the beginning. Like you think that you're just going to post a clip and it's going to go viral or something in that capacity, and it may or may not. But don't chase that. Chase your passion or something. If this is something that you really want to do, if this is something that you are very much passionate about, or you feel like it's purpose driven, or you feel like the services that you are adding from whatever subject matter that you are discussing or something in that capacity, give it your all. Absolutely. But I think that a lot of times the misconception is like, yo, we're going to get up here, we're just going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and because we feel some type of way, it's just going to land. I absolutely encourage people to start podcasts if you feel like you can plan it, if you feel like you have the patience, if you feel like you have the energy and the bandwidth to sustain it. There are times where I don't want to record, but I know that every week I have to record. So like if you have the dexterity to be able to stay through something when it's not rewarding in the moment, then this is absolutely for you. But if you're somebody that's looking for instant gratification, I'm sorry. Life may be very challenging for you. But I'm telling you this, that on the other side of it, if you are willing to stay the course, if you are willing to do the hard things, to do the hard work, to record when you don't want to record. I'll tell you this story right now. Last year was one of the hardest years of my life, but the most rewarding. I'll never forget this time last year around February, I found out that my left kidney failed. My left kidney failed on a Wednesday, Thursday, I found out. That next week, I had some of the biggest interviews that I had all last year. And it was funny to me because God showed me that, like, I got you, one. But then two, how bad do you want it? Because I could have called out for all of those interviews, but it was like, yeah, at that moment, this is something that you asked for. Are you going to let this moment crush you, or are you going to rise up? I rose up. And then when you talk about Jay and our differences in styles and opinion, we are kind of very similar. And our mission is to show the humanity of mankind. And how we do that may be different, but that's where we are aligned in that mission statement, where it's like, for me, I want to show that success looks different, and that's okay. To him, he wants to show that and then the second part is that the thing that makes us different are the things that makes it the same, which is ultimately we're different. And for him, it's just explaining and showing people that, like, we are all humans. We all have a story to tell. So when you look at life from that perspective, it's easy to have the conversations that we do because we can understand the reality of ourselves. And the reality with our podcast in particular is like you have two young men, we're in our 30s, and we are flawed. And we have accepted that we are flawed. And as a result of us being flawed, we are willing to have conversations of trying to become 1% better every day. Is it perfect? No. But it's an effort that we're willing to take.
I love that, bro. And I watched it. I love the slogan. I love the 1% better. I love the therapeutic conversation that you guys have and that you instill from a woman's perspective, but especially a Black woman's perspective.
Okay.
When she sits with you. And this is my last going away question. I ask this to all of my guests that come on, because we here at Wealthy Sibling, our goal is to inspire the one who may become chosen, who feels herself as the one who is going to be the successful sibling, the successful relative, because we have to change our money story. So you see yourself as a success maybe 30 years from now. What would you want your money story to be? What would you want it to say to the world and to your family?
That's a great question. I want the story to tell the person that hard workers pay off. And it's okay to be the underdog in a particular season. I would never have thought that I would be the sibling in the household that would be in this place. You know, well, hold up. Let me change that. I always knew that, but I know a lot of people around me never see that. Hold on, let me walk that back. So I always had the beliefs. I always was the person that had the most imagination. I would play like all the time, and they were like, "Yo, why are you playing so much?" or something, like the imagination in the back of my mind. But there was a point in time where I did have life hit me, and it was like a confidence thing. So to see it on this level, on this scale, it was jarring at times. So I want the story to say that hard work does pay off, and as long as you are willing to have vision and foresight, and you're willing to stay patient and consistent to get what you want out of life, I believe that life will reward you. But it's not going to come overnight. It may not come in 20 years. It may not come in 30 years. But if God blesses you with breath, you are able. That's what one of my homies said, and I was like, thank you for that. So long as God gives you breath, I'm able. And success may not look like what you think in your mind. It might be bigger. It may be bigger than what you could ever imagine. Or it could be smaller, but at the end of the day, just know that you have purpose in life. And I pray like that money story will be an inspiration to somebody that looks like me. And that may be cliche, but I guess as many people that we have on the other side that has an example of success, we need one or more. I believe that in the bottom of my heart, because it's not enough. One last part. Sorry not to drag this on, because you just got me stirred up a little bit, but I just thought about this. When you look at Don Conte, who was the richest black man in the world, he's valued at $24 billion. Elon Musk just dropped a valuation of $700 billion on Forbes list and climbing. When you take all of the black people that are on the Forbes list and you combine their assets together, they don't even scratch the surface of the valuation of the first person on that list. Really, if you really want to go down to even the 10th person on that list potentially. So now if you combine just the top 10 people on that list compared to all the wealthy people all the wealthy black people on that list, it's not even close. That's the money story that I want. I want the money story to be at top. We want to be at the top. You look at David Stewart. You look at David Stewart.
No, you going.
It was the richest black man in America. $11.2 billion. He was the top salesman at FedEx. Grant Cardone said this, and some people don't like Grant Cardone, but something that he said really sparked me up. He said either you're going to chase your resource, you're going to use your resources and chase your dreams, or you're going to be a resource for somebody else that's chasing theirs. And I will never forget that. We've been resources for other people's dreams. We had somebody like, again, David S. Stewart. Some people don't even know his name. The wealthiest black man in America. Surpassed Robert S. Smith 2 years ago. Left FedEx at their top salesman to take a step and an action to chase a dream that he knew nothing about. World Tech Systems. Look it up. I might have quoted it wrong, but look it up. David S. Stewart. And now he is the wealthiest black man in America. We need more stories like that. That's what I want my money story to be. A willingness, a boldness, a character that is willing to take a step and a leap of faith, even if I don't know what it's supposed to be or what it will look like 10 years from now. But when you look at my story, you're like, man, I may not even know who this man is, but he up there. And
he up there, suited and booted in his locks, Joe. Suited and booted in his locks.
And I just hope that when they say he up there, that the disparity in that wealth gap is one step shorter than it was when I started. Because it's not enough for me to be up there by myself. It's also that he's up there, but he brought them with him. That's what I want my wealth story to be, my money story.
Nah, man, that's there it is, bro. That's a lovely way to end it, bro. I'm sharing this episode with my mentees. Don't need trip. All my followers, but like my Chicago Chance mentor mentee, yeah, y'all gonna run this back. Y'all gonna watch this.
I appreciate you, man.
Nah, man. Yeah, no, man. I appreciate you, bro. As always, y'all, thank y'all for watching the show. We appreciate y'all. Tell them where to follow you, so you can keep getting all this knowledge.
Absolutely, all platforms. Alexander Blanc. We have a podcast as well called 1% Better. You can find that on the J Hill Network, and just keep supporting my brother. You know what I'm saying? We need more platforms like this. So I appreciate you for letting me come on this platform, for sharing my testimony, my story. I apologize if I rambled at points in time, but I'd be passionate and emotional at times. So yes, I apologize in advance, but yes, that's all.
For sure, man. Appreciate you, bro. We gonna catch up, and I hit you, bro. Love y'all, man. Like, share, subscribe, man, and we are out of here for sure. Cool. All right, back.